The relationship dynamic between you and your therapist is fundamental. And not just because you want to establish a therapeutic bond enough to build a foundation so then you can trust the individual and that you can feel safe in the therapist's office and in the therapist's facilitating treatment, but also it's important for the relationship because the both of you are going to project on each other. So what does that mean? The relationship itself between the therapist, especially the psychoanalytic therapist, because this doesn't happen with a CBT therapist, a cognitive behavioral therapist or a DBT therapist. This happens with a psychoanalytic, psychotherapist, or psychoanalyst. So you have the individual, the therapist, and then you have the patient, which is yourself. And you're in this dynamic in session and you're free associating and you're articulating all of these things that just come up in your mind. And what is the therapist doing? Well, if the therapist is like me, what I usually do is I'm like Siri and I kind of go along with you in your descriptions. So I might ask a question to deepen, what is going on. I might gently challenge you to think about what's happening. So as an example, I might say something along the lines of, hey, I'm not too sure if you're noticing this, but one moment you started talking about how your romantic partner is so loving and caring and amazing and spectacular in so many ways. But in the next breath, you started talking about how this person is so selfish and how this person barely thinks about you or takes you seriously. Did you know that you were talking this way? So by saying that and positioning it like that, then you have an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? I didn't realize that. Or yes, I did. And now we get to speak on that. So it's not just about feeling safe, and it's not just about expressing oneself and that trust and having that trust with the therapist, but it's about the therapist having the skills to help navigate through your mind, to help direct you to break through those defense mechanisms and to really explore the core trauma or traumas that are driving your symptoms. So in order to do this, there are so many psychoanalytic techniques that a therapist must have in their back pocket. And some therapists do, and unfortunately some therapists don't. So therapists, and this is why I encourage you to seek out either a psychoanalyst or psychoanalytic psychotherapist, because they are trained on how to decipher the language of the unconscious, how to break through resistances and avoidance in the mind, and how to get at the core trauma to bring it to the surface so that you can understand what is being said by the unconscious and finally process those pain points. That's why it's so fundamental to have a psychoanalytic psychotherapist or psychoanalyst. And that's why it's so important to see your therapist at least every 7 days. That's once a week. Do not go more than that. You have so many thoughts, so many emotions, so many behaviors, whether they're problematic or they're not and they're advantageous for you. A lot goes on in 7 days. Anything longer than that, you're doing yourself a disservice. So how can you expect your therapist to analyze your dream if you had your dream 2 weeks ago? How are you supposed to speak to the anger that surfaced when you got into an argument with your romantic partner if that happened a month ago? This is why it's so important to see your therapist at least every 7 days, if not more frequently. Because exploring the unconscious mind is not only a systematic and specialized approach, but it's also an art that takes time. The therapist essentially is going in your mind and opening up these doors. You're the one who has all the information. These are your doors, right? So it's not as if the information is coming from therapists like me, it's coming from you. But we're opening it up together, we're processing them together, and we're experiencing this together. This way, you are truly able to explore all of the different facets of your mind. If you're interested in therapy and you want more of that support, especially the analytical support, then click the link below to schedule a complimentary consultation with our consultation care coordinator. They will help direct you and connect you with a therapist who best fits your needs, and this way you'll be able to establish that foundation, that solid foundation, with the therapist that you can work from, exploring the conscious and unconscious mind. Let's do this together so you can start living a life that is in line with who you are.